Let's just say Monday Night Football didn't fill me with joy last night. So you know what time it is? Time to cleanse the palate. Time to hop into the world of best ball. This is your Week 5 best ball update. We're going to talk about the top players, the guys who are driving success or the failure of your best ball portfolio. And we have to start it off with something that I consider very important. Of course, you can see the thumbnail. You know where this is going. Here's the list. Here's the way that I'm going to start every video, assuming that AR, of course, has a good game. But I'm going to read this out one by one. Here are all the QBs that Anthony Richardson outscored in Week 4. And yes, it'd be a lot more efficient to say who he didn't outscore. It was Josh Allen, Justin Fields. Those guys were top 2 this week. But here is the reading, the ceremonial reading of names. QBs Anthony Richardson outscored in Week 4. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Joshua Dobbs, Russell Wilson, Brock Purdy, Zach Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, Sam Howell, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, wow, Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Aiden O'Connell, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Desmond Ridder, Geno Smith, Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Kenny Pickett, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Derek Carr, Mac Jones, Drew Lock, Bailey Zappi, and of course, Taysom Hill on FFPC. Did not include Tyler Huntley, who I think threw one pass in that game. I don't even know what happened, but he did put up some points. That is where AR stands. So we'll talk about, of course, the top players overall. But this is my victory lap for AR to already be seeing him as a top 3 QB in a game where, quite frankly, he did absolutely nothing in that first half. This is what best ball is all about. This is where the player take economy, where all the hard work we put in January and February, all the research, all the zigging when the public is zagging. Oh, he can't throw. Oh, I saw his SEC games. He can't be good. You know what happens? He's a fucking world beater like I said he would be. This is my victory lap. This is my joy. Steal of the draft is Anthony Richardson, even though Devon Achane going to be a little more of a steal, if we're being honest. But I don't care. I am so overjoyed with what we're seeing from AR. And to me, this is the joy of best ball. This is the thing that you don't get, or you do get in the DFS slate, but it runs bad the other way a lot. Like Daniel Jones. Had so much Daniel Jones and so much Geno Smith last night. People are tweeting me as Drew Lock is playing. And I'm like, fuck, man, I've got 85% Geno Smith. I don't want Drew Lock to play today. For best ball, though, it's a larger sample of time. It's a longer period. So you can really get behind your guys. You can root for them. You can invest both literally and figuratively in these players. So for me, Anthony Richardson, the siege didn't look that good to still put up 30. What would he have put up against Houston? 50? 100? I don't know. Point being, though, feels good. We got to look for the little victories where we can get them. When the day before, I put fucking Darren Waller in the thumbnail. You know what Darren Waller didn't do? Nothing. He did nothing. He did nothing. Daniel Jones ruined that game yesterday completely. Very upsetting Monday Night Football, and that's why we turned to best ball. Shout out to the chat. So yes, he did outscore Drew Lock. He made the list. Coming on stream already wearing the jersey. No, I can only draft him and then put on the jersey. That is the rules we've established here. 100. I always keep it 100 here, Jeff. That is what we do here on Splash Play. Let's talk about the top performers, though. Of course, looking at half-point PPR specifically. Top guys on the year. Christian McCaffrey. Big Lenny came into the chat yesterday and said, hey, Bozo, why did you draft Christian McCaffrey? And I say, yeah, hey, look, Christian McCaffrey's a pretty good player. Like, you can't argue that. The reason you don't draft Christian McCaffrey, though, is I don't know how many people actually were watching the game. And again, I know ball. I watch all the fucking games, do the best I can to keep them all going on various screens throughout the day. Christian McCaffrey, injured neck at the end of that game. I don't think he's going to miss time, but he's getting so much work right now that it will not shock me if at some point this year Christian McCaffrey does miss some time. Might not benefit Eli Mitchell, who of course missed practice at the end of the week with another knee issue because Eli Mitchell cannot stay healthy. We cannot have nice things from our zero RB portfolios. But Christian McCaffrey, I think what you're seeing right now is this is the run good. This is a time where everything looks great. If you're like me and you're a zero RB guy or you're some of those and you're surviving the Christian McCaffrey onslaught, I think you should feel really good about your portfolio. So Christian McCaffrey right now averaging 27.8 half-point PPR points. He's a fantastic player. I would rather have 20 points a week at the wide receiver position. That's how I feel about it, and that's how we're going to go. So worried about CMC weeks 15 through 17. That's fine. You can be worried about him. I certainly don't think the matchups are going to necessarily be ones that, especially week 17 is one where you're dying for him to go off and you're going to go, oh, he's absolutely going off. You know who is going to go off in fucking week 17, though? You know who the Raiders gave up 2 rushing touchdowns this week to? Justin Herbert. You know who's a lot better rusher than Justin Herbert and plays the Raiders in week 17? Anthony Richardson. So anyway, point being, I wouldn't sweat this stuff that much. Again, if you don't have Christian McCaffrey and he's going off like this and you're hanging in, as we will see my portfolio, am I hanging in? We'll find out. But I think people really like, if you're victory lapping the number one running back, who we all know is going to be good, it was the downside risk. Does he get the same volume? Does he get hurt at some point? Do they drive him into the ground? Right now, if I were a CMC fan, I would have concern about them driving him into the ground. The usage is a little bit too heavy for him. And it's not what you want to see for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, playoff aspirations. That's where the concern for Christian McCaffrey comes in. Number 2 is Justin Herbert on the year, just steady games at QB. Of course, you would expect QBs to be generally the highest scorers overall because of that has the highest ceiling and the highest floor at every position. So McCaffrey being number 1, interesting to note, but Herbert being number 2 overall bodes pretty well for him. Josh Allen at number 3, Jordan Love at number 4. That is a surprise, especially given how poorly he played on Thursday night. This is something that I was tweeting with Chris Towers over at CBS. Flex on me. He follows me. Some people who actually matter in media follow me and reply to me on social media. But Jordan Love, I think what you take away from that last Thursday night game against Detroit, where that was a really bad game. That was a really poor performance by the Packers. And yet Jordan Love still puts up just shy of 20 points. Like, I don't think that's necessarily his floor, but the fact that he can have about as bad of a game as you can have, getting pressure on every snap, all the things that we warned about last week in the Spags rankings, talking about Jordan Love, that all comes to fruition the next day with him getting pressured and looking absolutely awful. Every time he gets pressure, it's going to be bad. But that said, he was getting pressured all the time. He looked awful, and he still put up just shy of 20 points at half-point PPR. So I think Jordan Love at number 4, don't expect that to hold, but this is a really good sign for him and how his rollout is and just his part in this Packers offense, how much control he has in that offense, and how much opportunity more so. I don't think he has as much control as some other QBs out there, but the opportunity is there from him in a major way. Justin Jefferson right now is number 5 overall. Again, you're just getting solid 20-point weeks at receiver. That's really important to hit. It's more important to me that you're getting these guys who are going to be consistent every week, giving you 19 to 30 points at receiver. That's why I believe you take a Justin Jefferson. That's why I believe you take a Tyreek Hill, I guess, to a certain extent, a Stephon Diggs, a little more so. Like, those guys, to me, I think were ones that give you a really solid floor as well as the explosive ceiling at receiver. So Jefferson putting up what he's doing. Yeah, he's not giving you a 40-point game. He hasn't shown the Tyreek ceiling yet, but I think you have to feel pretty good about him being at number 5 and just being this consistent against some tough defenses. Defense has been playing him really schematically tough throughout the year so far. Lamar Jackson at number 6 after his 2 good games in a row now. 28 points in a row. Bodes pretty well for Lamar. Tyreek at number 7. Keenan Allen at number 8. Big fall, obviously, from grace for Keenan Allen here. He is one of the players that I said last week maybe you have some concerns about over the course of a year. I think that was maybe a tough schematic thing for him going against the Raiders. Raiders have been bracketing a lot of the wide receiver ones, and Keenan Allen, I thought, would kind of be able to benefit, be able to get in between those guys, run some good routes, but just didn't get the target workload, didn't get the opportunity overall. And, maybe it wasn't covered or was covered a little better than he should have been. So that's something for Keenan Allen where I don't think you're mad at it yet, but it's not a great sign where his first game away from Mike Williams, you do see him come down this much. But over the course of their careers, Keenan Allen has had slightly more targets, slightly more yards, slightly more catches when Mike Williams has been off the field. So I do expect that to get better than the 10.7 points he put up last week. Jalen Hurts is still at number 9 despite a really bad run out to the year. So kind of the same thing we talked about with Jordan Love, where Jalen Hurts is not playing like Jalen Hurts right now, where there'll be that change in offensive coordinator, whether it be just him not having the same juice this year. We'll find out as the year goes on. But the fact that he's in at number 9 overall and he's putting up these solid games, 3 games over 20 points, I think you feel pretty good about that, despite the fact that, of course, elite QB draft capital was one of those things in best ball that I kind of had some issues about in the stream. We talked through it a lot. I had 4% of basically all the elite QBs. That was how I wanted to attack things, and I think you could find similar QB upside later on. I think it's being proven to be the case so far. Number 10 is going to be Tua, and that rounds out the top 10 overall. Of course, QB is not going to be too much of a surprise here. A lot of the QBs in the top 10. Herbert, number 1 overall. Josh Allen, number 2. Jordan Love, QB3. Lamar, QB4. Surprised that one bad Lamar game really threw it off. So Lamar definitely should be leaping Jordan Love soon, you would think, if he keeps playing like he's playing. Jalen Hurts at number 5. Tua, QB6. Kirk Cousins, QB7. Really bad game for Kirk. Kirk, I would say, just faint worries that Minnesota decides that they need to move on. It's not looking good for them, obviously, to start the year. Things certainly could be a lot better. They ran so hot last year. The expectations coming into this year were probably a little bit unfair, too, just because they were really a team that was not as good as the numbers kind of showed win-wise last year. Every advanced data point expecting them to regress. Pythagorean wins, DVOA, all that stuff, expected them to regress. And we are seeing it very hard so far for Kirk. So there might become a point where Minnesota just goes, yeah, I guess maybe we should just tank and pull, honestly, they could pull the plug on everything. I think they'd be more inclined to keep Jefferson, but he's not signed long-term either. So they could theoretically just completely overhaul the franchise, trade Kirk, trade Jefferson in the offseason, and that would be really a lot. That'd be a big blow up. But definitely something that might make more sense for the franchise. So just something to watch. We're not there yet, but I think it is something to watch that I've heard sharp Minnesota people talking about. Patrick Mahomes in at number 8, QB8 for the year. Russell Wilson at number 9, and CJ Stroud, number 10. So CJ Stroud, another rookie. I think this is another one of the big bets. I saw Justin Herzig tweet before the show some of his theses about what's been working out the best in best ball, late round tight ends. I think he also mentioned rookies overall, the running backs going 0 RB or hero RB. The one that I would point to that I think is a little bit underscored because Bryce Young is so bad, but rookie QBs. I know there are a lot of people that were like, obviously I've been defending the wall for Anthony Richardson all offseason long. For Stroud, too, we talked about him on this stream, how great he was in terms of the EPA numbers at every level at Ohio State, how he was creating value for those receivers. Yes, they're great receivers. He was still creating value for them with how he played. We're seeing that now in Houston, where I don't think Nico Collins is that good of a receiver, but he is playing like he's Randy Moss. He's not making the same highlight reel catches, but numerically, his results have been Randy Moss-like, just how he's getting downfield, how he's creating some upside with those targets, his end zone work as well. So I think that's really a testament to CJ Stroud. Obviously, also the Houston offense, bringing in Bobby Slowick, who is a former pass game coordinator for the Niners. I think a lot of those principles carrying over to Houston. But CJ Stroud being at QB 10 on the year, I mean, you got to think he's not necessarily going to hold there. You got Brock Purdy breathing down his neck, Justin Fields. But if he's in this 10 to 15 range and giving you spike weeks that get into the top 5, I don't know how you're mad at CJ Stroud with where he's getting drafted. He's basically undrafted in some drafts out there. Let's look at the chats. Spags, I'm on the leaderboard in BBM. There you go. Super stoked. I am not on the leaderboard right now, so you got that going for you. But we will talk about my advance rates, which I do feel okay about. I don't want to spoil it, but you're not going to see a sad Spags when we get to the advance rate combos. Top running backs, half-point PPR. Christian McCaffrey, number 1. Again, no surprise there. Raheem Mostert, 4-point week, knocks him down to number 2. Mostert, worrying usage in this past week where he was actually getting less opportunities, less snaps than Devon Achane. That is not a great thing for Mostert because really the thesis of Mostert was that he was going to get this run out for the start of the year and maybe Achane sees the role as the year goes on. Achane's been so good, performing so above expectation. Again, teams know when guys perform above average. They don't always just give volume to mediocre guys. Achane's been great with every single touch he's been getting, as we'll talk about more when we have the data in the Spags rankings video tomorrow. But Achane's playing so well that they can't keep him off the field. So that's not great for Mostert. Definitely not great for Jeff Wilson because Mostert looks better than Wilson could possibly look too, including in the pass game. This is a backfield where Achane is doing just enough every week that I don't know how you have faith in Mostert, even though Mostert is going to have good games. So I would not expect him to hold this running back 2 spot for too long. Kyron Williams, actually, no, Devon Achane here at number 3. Of course, no surprises here. I got to tell you guys, I have looked up my exposures again on Achane. I'm double the field for him on Underdog. Don't know where I am on DraftKings, but I do believe I was almost triple the field on Achane. That is driving a lot of my teams right now. So if Achane gets hurt, I am fucked because a lot of my 0 RB teams are teams with like Rashad Penny, Eli Mitchell, Jalen Warren's been okay, but certainly not a world beater by any stretch. So if you are like me relying on Achane, you don't want this Achane run to end because he right now is cooking. The workload is getting better. The utilization is getting better. Those are good signs. But if he runs bad in touchdowns, if he just doesn't get that red zone, that inside the 5-yard line work, things can run bad for Achane. So I think there's a little bit of fragility there. What the fuck? James, are you kidding me? You're fucking sending 2 long-ass chats. What is this, the James stream? Get out of town. Great move. You sound sick, man. Unbelievable. Running back 4, Kyron Williams. Biggest steal of the draft so far. He and Puka. Certainly players that are looking no fucking chance. Get out of here. Get the audacity. I appreciate you, James. I think I just got to put you in timeout just because of the principle of that. The audacity of James. I like James. I hope you stay. Hope you hit the like button and all that, but get the fuck out of here. Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker at number 5. So Kyron Williams, I think, steal the draft right now. Hard to argue that. I have a lot more of him, unfortunately, on DraftKings and on Drafters than I do on Underdog. Underdog, though, he's obviously crushing it. Best utilization, best workload in the league, I guess, maybe besides Achane with what he's been getting lately. But the volume is so good for Kyron. I don't think he's an outlier player, but he's still definitely someone that I think can keep holding up just because of the fact this team is going to feed him 20 touches a game, a lot of them being high value touches. So Kyren Williams feels pretty good, but if Matthew Stafford has a hip flexor issue or a hip bruise, I think is what they were saying, if he gets hurt, this all goes down. So keep that in mind here for Kyren Williams. Going to get a lot less efficient as we go. Again, Walker, RB5. Bijan, despite some mid-game, still RB6. So he's kind of fitting the thesis of what we talked about here, where I saw him being basically worst-case scenario Tyler Algier from last year. I think we're seeing that, more of his work coming in the pass game, but Bijan at RB6. He's going to have some spike weeks, you think, but Atlanta needs to figure out the Desmond Ridder thing because that is not good. That said, this is probably Ridder's worst game of the season so far, and we still have Bijan putting up 16.2 half PPR points. So you can't feel that bad about it, but Bijan maybe a little more fragile than I would give credit for just because of the fact that Ridder did not look good on Sunday morning there in London. Brian Robinson still RB7, somehow pulled ahead of Tony Pollard to put up a dog shit week, 7.5 half-point PPR points against New England. Again, anytime somebody goes against New England, have great concern because New England's defense is all they have right now. That team on offense is dead, as you probably saw this week. Mac Jones getting benched for Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones dropping back so many times and still playing terribly. Pure volume there. So definitely something here with the New England defense where if you're in a season-long league, if you're in a redraft league, even if you have a stud, I might not be inclined to play them against New England just because they're uglying everything up more than you even thought possible by New England standards. RB9 is David Montgomery. Of course, the huge 33-point week on Thursday Night Football against the Packers will do that. Still great usage for him, great end zone work, great red zone work. That all bodes well for Montgomery, potentially staying in this top 10. And DeAndre Swift, 2 mediocre games in a row here, but still very good for where you're drafting him. So Swift, I think, holding steady. Still would like to see them get Rashad Penny in the mix. Obviously, I am very biased. My bags for Rashad Penny are huge. But DeAndre Swift, I think, definitely a player that still can't believe James. DeAndre Swift, still a player, though, that I think you feel pretty good about. Some concern, though, with Gainwell. Just Gainwell's going to get the work if games get out of hand. And even still, apparently, if games are still in hand, as the game against the Commanders was this past week, you still see enough Gainwell work that's not great for Swift in terms of the overall opportunity. Wide receiver, top 10. Let's look at half-point PPR again. Justin Jefferson, number 1 overall. So that's why he's number 1 overall. You just keep trotting him out there, keep making him do what he has to do every single week. The workload is there. The opportunity is there. He's getting more red zone and end zone work this year as well. That bodes well. Jefferson's just that dude. At some point, he's going to hang 50 on somebody. But you don't even need that. If he just keeps giving you 20 a week at receiver, again, you got to fill out 3 receiver spots, maybe 4 if you're counting the flex. So Jefferson doing what he does, I think, is so valuable, so underappreciated by people. I'll just go, Christian McCaffrey, 50 points, burr. Like that's basically, that's how people view things. And I would rather have the steady scoring at a wide receiver position where you need it. Stroud's a real steal. I think he will be in the winner. It's possible. I mean, it all comes down to Nico. Like this, it really does come down to more of the stacks. Like Pittman, I think, is obviously not playing as well as Nico Collins is. That said, for, a 1-game ceiling, I think Pittman can still get there. But I think that really ties back to everything we've talked about and everything that we found with my portfolio that we're going to look at in a second, is that it all just comes down to like the QB is a vessel for the most part for the stacks that come with him. So if Nico's going to be an outlier, he'll take Stroud with him. The difference, though, is that, again, AR in week 17, like, is he going to run for 2 and throw for 2? Is he going to run for 4? Like, it's all in play for AR, where Stroud, it just has to all come through the pass game. So if Nico has a bad day, if Tank has a bad day, Stroud's going to have a bad day. But AR can have a bad day and still get you the points you need. So I think that's the difference maker to me. That's why he's still the steal of the draft, even though, again, Achane steal of the draft. Like, it's all relative. But you got to choose your thumbnail somehow. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, number 3 and 4, respectively. Of course, Tyreek still holding down number 2, despite a really bad week 4. So you're kind of seeing here the ebbs and flows to Tyreek, the ebbs and flows to this Miami offense. He could have gone for probably 50 in that week against Denver, but still the spot for Tyreek, I think a little more fluid than a guy like Jefferson, a little more fluid than a guy like Stephon Diggs, but your mileage is going to vary. If you like the 50-point weeks, I think Tyreek's probably your best shot to get a few of them. But once you get Waddle back in with Achane running hot, it does feel like Tyreek's ceiling comes down just a little bit, even though he can break 3 big plays in a game, and that's his day, and that's more than enough to kind of get you where you need to be. Diggs, I think, underappreciated. Diggs, certainly a guy that I feel a little bit bad about not having in my drafters portfolio. My best team right now is Josh Allen with no Diggs. That kind of bums me out. I think you saw the ceiling with Diggs against Miami, obviously 33 points. You can see here in half-point PPR, but also just the usage, 10 targets a game for him, more than that in a lot of games. Diggs is just so involved. And again, if Buffalo's running hot, if Buffalo's looking like they did against Miami, Diggs is going to be a guy that can give you Jefferson-style numbers going a lot later in that first round. So I think Diggs' team's looking pretty good. And Diggs also, for me, one of my highest exposed guys, especially in that first round. Puka Nacua at number 5, steal of the draft. Again, another guy, AR's in the thumbnail, but really Puka, Kyron Williams, those guys definitely more steal of the draft adjacent. Puka's usage, I think, is going to crater a little bit when Kupp comes back in. But Kupp, that hamstring could certainly act up at any time. He's seeing specialists about it. It's never a great sign. So Kupp, I think, going to hurt Puka a lot. But Puka still, as we head towards week 17, there's no reason to think that he can't get back out there and have, good weeks if Kupp somehow goes down. And of course, he's going to be a lever away from Kupp whenever teams sell out to stop Cooper Kupp, which is going to happen often. So Puka's still in play, but I don't expect these kind of games to hold up forever. Devontae Adams at number 6, another player here. Talked earlier on in the best ball cycle about Diggs-Adams teams being ones I just thought you shouldn't be able to make. Obviously, a down game for Devontae Adams with Aiden O'Connell. He also did lead that game for a little bit, I believe, with a knee issue, but then came back in. So hopefully he'll be good to go moving forward. Adams, the part you worry about is just his interest waning as the season goes on. He does want to play for a winner. Right now, the Raiders not looking like a winner, whether it be Jimmy G or Aiden O'Connell, QB. O'Connell is feisty in there, hung in that game, but Adams, I worry a little about in terms of the team motivation, in terms of if he doesn't get traded, or if he does get traded, maybe gets traded somewhere weird. But I think more likely the biggest concern is that he stays on the Raiders start to go down this way, and then Adams just kind of floats. And that's the part that Adams definitely is capable of doing here. It's just something to keep an eye on. Nico Collins at number 7. Again, 32 half PPR points for Nico Collins is going to do that. He looks great. You are seeing the floor games, though, 11, 4.4. So a little bit boom busty, but still the usage is there every week. It's just a matter of, is Houston going to run hot in the spot, or are they going to struggle? There's going to be definitely some matchups in that division that they're going to struggle with. Some matchups they have throughout the year they're going to struggle with. But still, Nico having this upside. Anytime you can get a guy in the 110s that Nico is going, who has 30-point upside on the regular, I think you got to feel really good about. So Collins and Stroud, though, I think are going to go rise to the tide or drop accordingly. AJ Brown, big week for him, 34 half PPR points. Still hard to expect him to put that up very often. Definitely his complaining, the squeaky wheel narrative for AJ Brown's looking good. Keep him at the wide receiver 8 spot. But you're not going to get those 30-point games that often. At a certain point, Devontae Smith's going to be the squeaky wheel. At a certain point, Dallas Goedert's going to be the squeaky wheel. So there's definitely some ways that can go a little better. But the shift, I think, in offensive coordinator so far does seem like it's treating more like AJ Brown is just a pure number 1, Devontae like a number 2. And that's something that is not great for Devontae Bags. I guess maybe as a leverage play, still okay there. But AJ Brown does feel like he's becoming the true alpha receiver in this offense when I think it was closer to 1A and 1B last year. Hooked on a Thielen. Oh boy. Yeah. Adam Thielen still in the top 10. Mike Evans, top 9. Mike Evans is one to watch. Hamstring issue for him, I believe is what the report was. So that's not great for Mike Evans, who is on the older side and has a history of hamstring issues. Also a Tampa Bay team that's playing a little bit above their heads right now. That said, they're winning. So I guess they still are going to be a team that you can expect to be in competition throughout the end of the season as well. So not potentially a tank team, even though they're one that really should tank, but they're not going to if they keep winning like this. So Mike Evans in play, but I think you're starting to see some of the risk profile of that where he's going to have the huge days. I think he's going to be the player he's always been in best ball, but I don't expect him to be get to Tyreek level, even though it kind of looked like in the beginning part of the year. Godwin time. Yeah, Godwin definitely going to get a lot more passes, though. He's not the kind of player that you do see Baker Mayfield like to target. Baker likes to get it downfield. So maybe some room for Trey Palmer, Devin Tompkins, maybe being a player that can get there. There's some ways for that to work out for somebody else to emerge. But Chris Godwin's certainly going to get the target workload, you would think, to start. And Adam Thielen at number 10. I don't like this. This one, nobody in the basketball space. I think there was not a single person I can recall seeing, whether it be on social media, whether it be on YouTube streams, who was like, yeah, we got to jam in Adam Thielen, man. Great spot for him. He is benefiting so much from the shitty Carolina offense. That said, we did see a little bit of a swing to Terrace Marshall, who was playing the Jonathan Mingo role this week. I think he's a better version of Jonathan Mingo. I also think that using Terrace Marshall as like a short, low ADOT guy is the worst way to use Terrace Marshall, so it's frustrating. Carolina is just like a bad team, and I think Bryce Young, not as good as Andy Dalton at QB, as we've talked about a lot here. He's just not able to kind of do the same things, not able to stand in the pocket, take the hits, not able to read the pocket as well. These are all things that are not great, but Adam Thielen can keep hanging around and having spike weeks as long as they're going to be this shitty regressive offense. So Thielen, I think, okay. But if you do see Marshall get more snaps, I do think at a certain point, it's got to eat away at Thielen just because like Terrace Marshall is a legit man athlete of appropriate age. And Adam Thielen is just hanging on by a thread as an old guy. They moved into the slot. So that's one to watch there. Young is like a deer in headlights, and Nick is in the bag for the Panthers pretty heavy. That system's been horrible. I agree. I think Young just doesn't know what to do, and I think that Young, so like he graded out to me as being kind of a system QB, which is not always a bad thing. System QBs can be really good. Trevor Lawrence was kind of a system QB at Clemson, and he's still a player that obviously comes in and then, if the offense is running good, he's looking good. If the offense is running bad, Trevor Lawrence is looking bad. And I think that's the kind of thing where you have not great coaching. Josh McCown, great on the Underdog Fantasy YouTube channel, maybe not great calling plays, or if he is being a little too influenced by Frank Reich. Either way, it's not looking great for that offense. So I think if you have a shitty offense, Bryce Young kind of comes down and fails. And I think, maybe put him in Houston's offense. I don't think he's quite CJ Stroud, because to me, Stroud is more of an aggressive pocket passer. But Bryce Young, I think, is in a bad situation. And I don't think he's really ready to be in a bad situation. He's just too small and doesn't have the instincts, I think, that you want to see, which, is a film bro take, is a no ball take, but that's how I feel about it. It's early, but Young and Stroud feel similar to Wentz and Goff. I guess that's a possibility. I think that Stroud, though, is honestly better than both Wentz and Goff. Stroud, to me, the comp was always like Joe Burrow, maybe slightly less mobile Joe Burrow, though he did get that. He got a rushing touchdown, right, this week, or at least was in the hunt for one. So CJ Stroud, I think not quite Joe Burrow mobility, but a Joe Burrow caliber passer. So I would say it's a little bit different. Young, to me, the best case scenario is being like little Drew Brees, and he's not been little Drew Brees so far. Tight ends, top 10 half-point PPR. Tight end 1 is still TJ Hawkinson despite a dog shit week. So again, the tight end position is just awful. Something to keep in mind here. Mark Andrews getting back on the map with his first big game of the week, gets to tight end 3. Sam Laporta midweek gets to tight end 2. Tight end, nobody's doing anything. Cole Kmet moves up with one good week. Again, under 7 points for 3 weeks. Then he has one good game, and now he's a top 4 tight end. You just got to have, as we talked about this offseason, I thought it was just take 3 tight ends, let the chips fall where they may. So far, it is looking like a situation where if you just took 3 tight ends and, let the chips fall where they may, I think that's how it's looking the best so far. So Mark Andrews, my highest exposed tight end, or one of them. I feel good about that, but this might be a year where elite tight end gives you a few weeks, but week to week, you probably just need a tight end to give you 5 to 10 points. And I don't know if that holds up over the course of the entire year, but for right now, if you just have guys that are getting you 5 to 7 targets per game, that's probably enough to carry you through. Tight end 5, Hunter Henry, he came back down to earth 2 straight weeks. He is one of those guys that is going to fall precipitously as the New England offense gets worse. So just something to keep in mind there if you were very early victory lapping Hunter Henry. Travis Kelce, midweek here. The production going to Noah Gray didn't help him out. If Noah Gray doesn't catch that 1 touchdown, it's probably a Travis Kelce touchdown. So you got to look at it through that lens, but definitely not paying off a first-round price tag at a position where that then left you behind at running back, at wide receiver. If you like elite QBs, you also fell behind there by taking Travis Kelce. So a little bit tough start for him. Evan Ingram, number 7. Jake Ferguson, number 8. Tyler Higbee, number 9. And Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith makes the top 10 at tight end. If you, again, wonder why 10 is such a stupid position, I don't think you should eliminate it or anything. Jonnu Smith had 1 good game and 2 okay ones and a 0 in week 1. And he is now a top 10 tight end, while poor Kyle Pitts. Yes, Smith, Ritter, Jonnu cucking Pitts. That is brutal. That is brutal. Drew Brees is already little, though. He's not Bryce Young little. It's not Bryce Young. Not a lot of guys are Bryce Young little. It's Kyler Murray, and Kyler at least runs with some aggressiveness and can take hits and is not doesn't look terrified back there. And Darren Waller. Darren Waller's at number 13. Tight end is so stupid. Who's the biggest busted tight end? Kittle looking bad so far. The spike weeks are still going to be there for him, but the more you see Debo be healthy, the more you see Ayuk be healthy. That's not great. McCaffrey as well. He needs somebody to come out there for him to have anything resembling a ceiling, it feels like. But Kittle also getting older, maybe not great. Pat Freiermuth looking bad. Noah Gray is a top 17 tight end. Luke Musgrave, concussion hurting him here. If he didn't have that concussion, he's probably in the top 10 just by having 5 points this past week. So that's not bad. Here we also far do we have to scroll down for Pitts. Pitts is at number 29, so he's 5.4, 2.5, 6.2, 3.1. He's barely pulled ahead of Andrew Ogletree. Tight end is a very funny. Dallas Goedert's number 32. This is terrible. Tight end is the worst, man. Just draft 3 guys who are values next year. Just call it a day. Or draft, well, fucking Brock Bowers is going to come in next year. I would still draft Brock Bowers like wherever he goes. But it's not great, man. This is not great. Will Disley, Will Mallard, Irv Smith. Irv Smith is one guy that I need to walk that back. He's hurt now again for the umpteenth time. So he makes me feel pretty bad. Where's Michael Mayer at? Michael Mayer is going to be the one that makes you Kyle Pitts owners feel better. Puts up another 0. I presume this means he didn't even get targeted this week, but a 0, 0.7, and a 2, which was his 2-point conversion he got. Michael Mayer's usage is terrible. The good news, again, is that the Raiders are probably moving the wrong way, so that should be good for Michael Mayer. Anyone know Pitts' ADP on Best Ball Resurrection? You know what? Let's see if we can find that. Why not? If somebody has it faster, drop it in the chat. Let's answer that question. Let's answer that godforsaken question. Resurrection. Pitts. 117.3 ADP in Best Ball Resurrection. I have not done any Resurrection drafts because, quite frankly, I do just like letting my Best Ball team simmer, get in the mix. But Best Ball Resurrection out now. Play again on Underdog. Use the promo code SPLASH. I believe you get, I think there's a few more days left, by the way. If you are a new sign up for Underdog for some reason, go use that promo code SPLASH and they will match up to $500 on Underdog. So take advantage of that if you want, but it's going to go away fast. All right, let's look at my Best Ball Mania exposure. So pre-draft Best Ball, I guess we could quickly look at. Just not, again, stuff I talked about last week. I should be doing better in the big board, just how I got the player takes for the most part. That said, the lack of structure that I brought to myself, I think was an error that I would like to redo. The first team, I think, or one of the first teams that Pete and I drafted together, 2 of them actually, advancing. This is back when Pete and I drafted teams together on stream. So we have this one in number 3. Lamar, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. Oh, we got Purdy. I'm glad he didn't force me on a Trey Lance in that one. Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Madison, Tyjae, Eric Gray. Eric Gray is fucking deep in the doghouse after that fumble or the fumble on the punt return yesterday. AJ Brown, JSN. I hate these receivers, but got a lot of them. Yeah, this team is not the best. Let's go to the ones that I do like. Let's see. My golden team, I think, still in first. My golden team is actually really sick. 610 is the score for my golden team. Of course, the golden is one player wins all the money in this one. So even if the team is running great, it's going to be a tough one for me to get. But Tua, Derek Carr, Saquon, Travis Etienne, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert. So Mostert's been driving this one. Tyreek, Ayuk, Evans, Dotson, Michael Thomas, Rondale Moore, got Terrace Marshall and Puka. And this one, Puka, I'm sure, will be a big help. Golden especially was not drafted a lot this time of the year. Mark Andrews, Juwan Johnson. Andrews going to be the big value there. Juwan Johnson, one of the most disappointing tight ends of the year. Let's talk about more during the Spags rankings video tomorrow around 11 a.m. will be when that starts. But let's talk Best Ball Mania. Best Ball Mania. I'm advancing fucking 30 out of 150 right now, which again, Christian Watson not going off yet. George Pickens inhibited greatly by the Pittsburgh offense. What else? What else has been an inhibitor for me? Christian McCaffrey goes for 50. You know who's still fucking hanging in there with diamond hands? Chris Spags. So I feel great about that. My top team, I believe, is this one where I got sniped on Baltimore and Miami's QBs, but still have a 564. So Daniel Jones, oh no. Jordan Love, Dobbins out for the year. James Cook, Khalil Herbert, Achane, Deuce Vaughn, and Eric Gray. I didn't have this much Eric Gray, guys. I don't know why he's coming along for the ride in all these lineups, but there he is coming along for the ride. Tyreek, Waddle, London, Pickens, Bateman, Osborne, Slayton, and Puka. Puka's helping it out. So a team with Puka and Achane. No surprise there that is a top team. But again, Puka teams I do expect to come down a little bit when Kupp gets back in, so that's not going to be great for me. Just apologize for your CMC. Why would I apologize? I fucking answered this already, Lenny. You take receivers a different configuration. I cannot wait for you to fucking lose your money when he goes out with an injury coming up soon. I never root for injuries, but for Big Lenny, I'm making a special case. You're a fucking dolt if you don't get why I drafted a bunch of wide receivers early on just to get away from the beaten path. This is like saying, oh, you didn't play the chalk DFS play of the week. What a fucking fool. No, it's that you're building on a different fucking configuration. It's the whole point of the exercise. That's what game theory is. You fucking, I know, you just know Lenny's a fucking big fat slob, dude. If you're calling yourself Big Lenny, I know what you are, Lenny. But anyway, just fuck off. Like, that's not an apologized take. My take was I'd rather have Justin Jefferson. I would have that take now. It doesn't change. Yeah, what? And this is, again, it's so smart to pick him in the top 3. No, it's like, that's the point, is that anybody could have taken him. Anybody did take him. You're a fish if you fucking were taking him every single time. I don't care. Like, I just don't. That's not how you play it. That's not how I want to play it. You can draft however you want, Lenny. If you fucking win $3 million at the end of the year, you're going to spend it all on a fucking $3 million sub. Fucking dipshit. Yeah, like every other drafter in fantasy football. Historical anomaly. Look, I know the chat gets it. It's just Big Lenny was around enough in the summer where, like, he shouldn't be this dumb. And yet here he is, this dumb. So that hurts. Other teams here that might look good. Teams I marked with an X. Oh, so let's actually, before we do that, the Pete teams. The Pete and I both advancing teams. Let's look at that. So we have a bunch of head-to-heads here. I'm advancing in our head-to-head drafts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also, like, fucking Lenny, look at my portfolio. Like, I didn't draft McCaffrey very much, and look what I'm doing. This was the whole fucking point. I don't need the guy scoring 50 points. I just die. Stupid people. Mamma mia, you're making me do an Italian accent, stereotyping my own people because you're so dumb. Anyway, all those teams, I now lost the count of head-to-heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, 8 out of 31 teams, I believe, is what we drafted. Which means that for the Pete teams, the teams that Pete and I drafted together on stream, or head-to-head rather, I am currently advancing 26% of my teams that Pete and I drafted head-to-head. So that is a big surprise. That is one that definitely feels pretty good for me. No, you fucking idiot. That's not how this fucking works. My portfolio would be completely fucking different. I wouldn't have the players I got in the same spots if I took McCaffrey. It's the whole fucking point. Ah! Jesus. Anyway, shout out Dobby here, advancing 49. How are you this down? Is he this fucking dense? Ow. How can somebody who does this, theoretically, you're spending money on best ball. How do you not get this? How does this not go through that fucking thick lunkhead of yours? I drafted this way to give myself a chance to win without being a chalk baby, without being a chalk donkey, without fucking being trapped in the same CMC thing. Again, watch the fucking end of that game with him rubbing his neck and looking really tense and then being deeply concerned on the sideline. That's why you don't draft McCaffrey, even if he's going to give you 50-point weeks in week 4. Ooh. Ooh. Mamma mia. Yeah, you got a tiny penis, Big Lenny. I mean, again, he's Big Lenny, so he's probably, a little fat covering that. I got it. Spags stacks. Let's look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 Spags stacks advancing too. So again, for the Spags stacks videos, if you missed those, I know there apparently my draft process, some people watched it and didn't get into their head. Spun a wheel for Spags stacks and drafted my teams. 10 out of 32 teams drafted. I guess 31 because I did draft one of those in the puppy. 10 out of 31 teams I drafted with Spags stacks are currently advancing. So I don't know if that's going to hold necessarily. Obviously, it is week 4. That's a 33% advance rate on Spags stacks teams. So just stacking. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter what you do. You can be spinning a randomizer wheel and drafting your teams. You're still going to do better by stacking up more than not. That is once again a reminder here. And I guess the biggest reminder is that I should have been the one who was fucking streaming 150 of my drafts, because apparently I should do a lot better on stream than off. But either way, feeling very good about the advance rates so far. It is week 4. Things are going to move around. If Achane goes down, that's not going to be great for me. If AR goes out again, not going to be great for me. If CMC keeps putting up 50-point weeks, not going to be great for me. But there's a lot of things that are working out okay. Again, no Watson for me, my highest exposed player. Pittman's been up and down. That's one of my other highest exposed players. Pickens hasn't gotten there. Another highest exposed player. So for me to be running out this well, I feel very good about the process, even though, again, I don't have Christian McCaffrey. How am I going to survive? Apologize. Fucking what is this? Unbelievable. Big Lenny trying to neg Spags with sleeping with him. Thank you with that. Third highest BBM team is from a Spags stack. Oh, there we go. So I'm carrying everybody along with me in Spags stacks too. I know Pete talked about this yesterday, but Walrus Balls here safely in first place. I have no teams in the top 10,000. So maybe if I had Christian McCaffrey, I'd have one in the top 10,000. Oh no. I don't play for the regular season prize. I don't give a shit. I want to be there in week 17 with a stack team. That's what I go for. So, but yes, Walrus Balls. Can we talk about the first place team's username? I don't know where it comes from. I don't know that he loves like the balls of a walrus. Like you know what? I know Pete wouldn't do this on the stream yesterday. Oh, fucking OG1 Kenobi, 30% on underdog right now. Or no, 20%, excuse me, 20%. Fucking big Lenny's in my head. All right, let's look up walrus balls. Let's see. Oh, there we go. There's some walrus balls for you. I don't care if Pete's afraid of looking up walrus balls on stream. I'm not terrified at all. Here's some balls for you. Here's some walrus balls. Oh, this looks like a dead walrus. No, you could just be napping. You could just be napping. I'm not a big walrus guy. Like, I don't, like, they're not doing a whole lot for me. Sea lions are pretty cute. Sea lions are like little Labradors, but of the ocean. So they're okay. Walrus balls, I'd rather have sea lion balls if we're going to go with it. that is very much a nude egg and a bonk. Spags performs on stream. I mean, I guess if you're going to really get my goat like Lenny did, then you'll get a performance or two. Let's talk about DraftKings. DraftKings are going... Just join the stream at a good time. When you see walrus testicles on the screen, how do you click away? I don't think you can. All right, let's look at DraftKings, but also let's quickly pander for subscribes. There's nowhere else on YouTube are you going to have somebody straight up yelling at people in the chat for being fucking buffoons. That's what you get here on Splash Play. Of course, I come about my takes earnestly. I do the data research. You see my process every single week here on stream, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. every day. So subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. We have fun here. It's not just all me yelling at people. It's certainly a large portion me yelling at people, but not all. So on DraftKings, the math's a little bit different here, but I believe I am at, fuck it. Am I just going to count these again? It's so much easier to count on your phone. Let's count them again. I am at, I'm advancing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 27 out of 30, which I believe puts me at a 18% advance rate. So surprisingly for me, I really thought my DraftKings advance rate would be higher because I have more HN here, but I guess something's not working in my lineups. It's hard to tell with DraftKings because you can't see your exposure rates. But let's look at my top team. My top team I know is fucking crushing. 736 is my score for my top team. So feeling pretty good about that one. The team in question is going to be AR at QB. Ooh, can AR win me all the money on DraftKings? Wouldn't that be nice? Kyron Williams and Devon Achane. Feel good about that. Diggs, Ayuk, Romeo Dobbs makes a lineup this week. Mark Andrews, Jaden Reed. Got Lamar on my bench. Tony Pollard, Durham Smythe. Tony Pollard's on my bench. I never take Tony Pollard. Durham Smythe, Mike Evans, Tyler Boyd. Alec Pierce has to have a good game at some point, right? Like he's not doing it yet, but at some point you got to think more than one catch, more than 50 yards have to come his way, but we're not there. Pittman, Renfro, Dillon. If only Dobbins were healthy, but Dobbins, Irv Smith, A.T. Perry, not contributing a lot here, but the top part of the team, I mean, that's a lot of fucking points, man. And it's funny too, because this guy's got 733. I don't think I have seen another team in all these contests, and I might have missed it. I didn't click like everything. I've not seen a lot of teams over 700, let alone over 725. And yet there's two of us in that one room. So sometimes if you just take advantage of a bad room, if you know, two drafters in there who I guess did that, it can work out pretty well. This is my number 2 team: Tua, David Montgomery, Achane again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, Laporta, Jerome Ford, Goff, Spears, Judy, Smythe again, Kincaid, Miles Sanders, who will give me some usable weeks, you would think, though. Snap count coming down for him, coming up for the other guys in that backfield. Not great for Sanders. He was hurt, though. Rashee Rice, Amari Cooper, Roshan, Peoples-Jones, Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny's the one player where if Penny were giving me what Swift is giving, I think my teams would be fucking popping right now. But instead, you know, still have some good teams. My worst team overall, let's see what that is. CMC, thank you, Christopher. $20 super chat to say CMC over Jefferson. Yes, you know, look, if you are a chalk baby who likes to do the thing that everybody else in the field wants to do, then yes, that is a great play. If you want to draft differently, then that's fine. James is back. Would you rather have Dobbs or Geno Smith? I would keep Geno. Dobbs, at a certain point, Dobbs is not going to start. The Cardinals have to play Kyler Murray because they either have to prove that he's healthy to trade him or they need to see what they have to see if they want to keep him. Either way, though, Kyler has to go at some point this year, you would think. I don't think he's going to play a lot, but I think he has to go at some point. So Dobbs is just not He's going to keep you afloat for a few weeks. I don't think that's the wisest move. Like walrus balls, the prize money means nothing to me. I just want Josh Norris to say my ridiculous name in an ad read. Yes, Ross, also a man who's known for having ridiculous usernames across the space. Shout out, James. My bad for writing that paragraph before. It won't happen again. Thank you for these live vids. I appreciate you, James. I appreciate you understanding too. It's just, it's hard to stop a flow here of something that's completely different content to answer one person's question, but I appreciate your understanding, James. And that's all we ask for here on Splash Play. My worst team, 436, which I guess could be worse, honestly. Though we are down 200 points, which is going to be a little bit tough to dig out of. My worst team, Brock Purdy, Chuba, Gus Edwards. Oh, this is the bad side of 0RB. Chuba and Gus, Marquise Brown, DK Metcalf, Christian Watson. Watson's going to have better games. I'm encouraged by him getting that in limited usage against Detroit. But Watson, to me, man, he's got to be out there running a full complement of snaps. He's got to be out there getting force-fed the ball. We saw the latter half of that for the most part when he was on the field. Just Jordan Love was so bad in that one. But Watson, I think, will have some nice games, potentially a few coming up in the next few weeks. But I think Watson is the one guy that if he goes off for me, I will feel a lot better about my portfolio. Jordan Love in this one as well. Freiermuth, Gibson. Gibson is probably the biggest waste of a pick anywhere in a draft. Damian Harris, still in the mix enough. Deuce Vaughn, garbage. I knew that. Chase Brown, Debo. And then Kupp, Addison, Rashad Penny, Deion Jackson. Boy, Addison didn't do anything in that game. That's tough to get a 0 from Addison. I would not have expected that. But Deion, useless pick. Zonovan Knight, useless pick at this point. So this is a team befitting being the worst team possible. Green Bay's got a nice schedule coming up. Jordan Love, man, if he's top 4 with how he played, like, and some of the teams that he's played so far, I think things are going to look really good for Jordan Love. I don't know that he's going to have like a 40-point ceiling necessarily, but I think you're going to see some 30-point games from Jordan Love, and I would assume that Christian Watson can rise with that tide. But the issue with Jordan Love and Christian Watson is that Jordan Love just looks for Dobbs whenever he's in trouble, and that is one of those things that was a news item in the offseason as well, where Jordan Love was basically working out exclusively with Romeo Dobbs for large portions of the offseason because they were both willing to be in California together, I believe. And Watson wasn't out there. And you can definitely see that connection kind of manifesting. It's not always going to be the case, like especially when a guy is much more talented. And I do think Watson is a lot more talented than Dobbs. But it is something that I think has kind of proven to be the case a lot more, where just Jordan Love is using Dobbs as a safety blankie, and that's something that can be pretty tough. James, if you become a channel member and DM me or something, I will answer to it. But you got to be a channel member. I'm not a consultant for people's fantasy teams, unfortunately. As much as I would love to be, I'm not that. Let's go to drafters. Anyway, so Underdog doing the best for me. DraftKings, though, above average. And again, if you're around average, above average, that's great. Obviously, if you're crushing, that's also great. But I do think like you just need to be hanging around there throughout the course of the entire season. So that's the main thing I would say. Don't get discouraged if you're under average too. It could sometimes pick up. And last year, I finished slightly under average in advance rate. Did have a finalist team on Underdog, and then on DraftKings, I was with the average rate, and I had 2 finalist teams. So just for the sake of perspective, just don't sweat it that much if you are running bad right now. Oh my God. What would you do differently next year? We can agree to disagree that you're a bozo on CMC. I don't think I would do anything differently for the most part. I think I drafted the way that I like. I think I've run bad with some of the guys I took. But I think, that's going to happen. Like Dobbins being out, like that hurt me a little bit, but not enough to worry. I guess I would diversify my group of late tight ends a little bit more. Where I definitely leaned a little bit heavier on the Michael Mayers, Musgraves, and all those guys. But obviously it worked out for Laporta. It hasn't worked out that well for Kincaid yet. But I do think that's probably the one thing would be like, I would mix in some Hunter Henry at that more so, or at least get a different staggered build where it's like one rookie, one kind of journeyman with a role, and then one dart throw tight end. And I think that would make more sense. But like my teams are cooking. Like, I don't know. My teams are doing what they were supposed to do, which was to get me off the beaten path, which was building a 0RB team. And that's what I like to do. That's what I have fun doing. So I think 0RB is working out pretty well, but maybe could have gone a little more hero RB too, but still wouldn't take McCaffrey. I just like, when I took McCaffrey, I still have 5% of him, by the way. I have 5% McCaffrey and I only took him in like the 6th spot, the 7th spot. So I think that worked out okay. He's not a big part of my portfolio, but if he keeps going off, keeps putting up 50-point weeks, I'll be covered. And if he gets hurt, like I think will happen if they keep giving him fucking 25 to 30 touches a game, then I'll be fine too. All right, my top team on drafters. So this one is another one, Achane and Kyron Williams. I really wish that I had more of this duo everywhere, but feeling good about this one. This is one too where I don't believe this is an on-stream team because I remember autoing Mike White and going, fuck, I can't believe I autoed Mike White. But Mike White is hanging in here, so I'll have the Miami stack no matter what if Tua were to go down. Josh Allen, I think, is doing a good job, obviously, but I don't know that you need an elite QB, and we'll look at the first place team on Drafters as well and figure that out. But this team, I think, is pretty good. I feel weak at receiver, though. Hill, Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman, then Sky Moore is my wide receiver 4. I don't love that. Zay Jones hurt. Alec Pierce not playing great. Jalen Hyatt not playing great. Terrace Marshall carrying a load coming in late here on Drafters. And then I forced an elite tight end with TJ Hawkinson. I don't know that you needed an elite tight end either. I really felt like with Drafters that it made the most strategic sense for me to go elite QB, go elite tight end. And I think I would have benefited more by building my normal kind of team here where like Brees isn't doing shit for me right now. This could have been a receiver. And I could have added more volume at running back, which would have maybe given me one more outlier like Achane and Williams. So that is my takeaway from Drafters so far. But obviously, again, things are going to change. Things are going to move around. But this team is top 700 right now. My number 2 team, less good, I think. Fields and AR, like that configuration. Henry, Javonte, Devon, Achane, Gainwell, Roshan's going to have better weeks. The Khalil Herbert having a good week probably keeps Roshan at bay a little bit more. Tyreek, DK Metcalf, McLaurin, Pittman again. Burks out hurt again. Not great. Alec Pierce, Hardman is useless. Mechie is mostly useless. Tyler Scott maybe getting less useless if Chase Claypool's out of town. And Laporta, Jake Ferguson is an okay team. My worst team on Drafters, I think, just has injuries. Yeah, Watson and Chubb, that's not going to help. Gibbs, bad ADP on Gibbs. Gibbs is one guy, too, where I really worry about that ADP holding up. You basically now need a Montgomery injury, I think, for Gibbs to get where he needs to go. Still think, as I've mentioned this entire offseason, that at a certain point, the Montgomery workload is going to come down here. The Gibbs workload will come a little bit closer to here. But I don't think the red zone, end zone usage is going away for Montgomery no matter what. They just trust him a lot more there. So Gibbs would be a player I would start to worry about now. Jalen Warren doing okay, not doing enough. Like these are the guys that, like, you know, if you just score enough at running back, you can make a lineup and you don't feel too bad about it. But again, if you keep, you know, to Big Lenny's point, his brilliant point that I've now yelled at a lot. If you keep getting 50-point weeks from McCaffrey, especially from one running back, like if you can withstand one good game from McCaffrey, one good game from Eckler, one good game from Barkley, like that's not going to kill you. When it becomes one running back putting up a steady crush of big games and then really lapping a Jalen Warren, that's when it gets worse. So something to watch there, but I just don't think there's going to be a lot of 50-point games for McCaffrey. Come back. If I'm wrong about that one, come back and tell me about it. Lazard, a shocking 15-point week here. This team, though, this is the last place team. Stinky, we get it. Cutler for life. This is the first place team in Drafters right now, so I believe they'd be winning 200K or 300K. Justin Fields at QB, Stroud, Ritter, Derrick Henry, so he went with a hero RB build. Gibson killing his team, but he's got Achane and Mostert. This is, again, not going to play out that well over the course of a year, but if you got that one usable week, probably feeling okay about Achane and Mostert. He's got Kyron as well, so that bodes pretty well for him. Justin Jefferson. Oh, Justin Jefferson, part of the first place team. Pretty crazy. It's not Christian McCaffrey, huh? Justin Jefferson here at number 1. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. He's got Pittman. He's got Sutton. Got Nico as a value. Samuel and Tutu probably not going to do a lot for him, though. Curtis Samuel had 18 points this week, so he actually could have made a lineup. Chig, Waller, Everett at tight end. So again, this team is in first place and showing you that, yeah, elite QB help, but like I don't think he would be losing that much getting CJ Stroud here as his main QB. But tight end, this is technically an elite tight end, and he's getting points from Chig over him, and maybe could have gotten more points from Everett over him. Like you didn't need an elite tight end, it looks like so far in Drafters, but it's a long season. We'll figure out where it goes. Top BBM team as Achane, but more of them as CMC. That's good. I mean, I would rather personally, again, relative to ADPs, you'd rather have an Achane 50-point week than a CMC 50-point week, just because that was a lot easier to access for everybody. You're not wasting the high draft capital. I want receivers who are going to give me 20 to 40 points every week if they can. That's the strategy. That's sort of the big hope. Next year, okay, Lenny. So Lenny's now back. Lenny's now fixated on things. So I'm glad to hear that, Lenny. You've come back to the center. Next year, I'm using my last 2 picks on guys not getting drafted. Kyron and Puka, for example, way too much Slayton Mayer. I don't think it's that. I don't think that's the answer. The answer is more so you're taking guys that have signal that's been there and that like people are just not drafting. So Slayton had some vague signal in terms of his rapport with Daniel Jones, but the signal for Kyron was that, oh, they're going to use him as a third down back at the very least. And then it became, oh, he's going to be part of a timeshare. That's when I started drafting him more so. They're not an underdog guy. That's the thing that I think if you're going to draft a guy, you shouldn't go, oh, he's only better in full point PPR. I'm not going to take him on the half point PPR site. That's probably another one of my regrets, I would say, portfolio wise. But I think it's more that like Puka was involved. Puka was hanging out with Kupp and Stafford. Puka was asking all these questions. They were talking him up, and people just didn't buy into that signal. Like I know Pete and I debated Puka versus Tutu. I was a little more team Puka. He's a little more team Tutu. And it became one of those things where it's like, all right, like I think the signal's there for Puka, but you could see the logic in the other player. Just follow the signal for stuff like that a little bit more. And obviously, Puka's really benefiting again from Cooper Kupp not being out there. The Kyron Williams one, though, like you could have gotten to Kyron if you like were paying close attention. And also if you were just side agnostic about it and just said, hey, this is a good 18th round pick. So that's kind of the issue there. Let's see. Yeah, they got drafted, just not by you. Yeah, they definitely got drafted. I think the exposure for Puka was supposed to be around 3% was what people were saying. I did the math a couple weeks ago. So people drafted Puka. I think I have a little more than the field of Puka, but I don't have 8%. So Puka is definitely a help, but yeah, it's just, again, just you got to pay attention to the offseason, got to pay attention to all the training camp news. Like that stuff matters a lot more than people realize in best ball. Part of this is reading into injury outcomes. A lot of people took Charbonnet, and if Walker got hurt like Chubb, Charbonnet would be in a great spot. Difference is ADP risk. I think that's fair to some extent. I think it's more about, so like you have running backs that have a role no matter what. And this is a big part of my focus this year, where last year I had too much Zamir White, too much Hassan Haskins, guys that were pure contingent value. I think the bigger lesson is that you want guys who have some amount of a role. So like Roshan hasn't taken the role over yet, but he's getting you some points. Obviously, he had the nice week one. Achane having some role, and then he seizes more as he goes. I think it's more that you just want to try to pinpoint the guys that are going to have some amount of a role and an opportunity to earn more. And that's sort of the key thing that I would say should be driving your selections. But you can't worry about the injury outcomes too much, because sometimes those guys don't get hurt. Like Derrick Henry actually got hurt last year, and Hassan Haskins still did nothing with it. So I think that's something where it's not just pure like contingent value guys. It's just guys who are going to be in the mix. And then hopefully 1 week they have kind of a spike week thing. Well, I get in that resurrection. It's not currently part of my plans. I know people have been asking about it. If the splash play community wants me to do some resurrection drafts, I'll do it. But I just I have my portfolio of teams. Like I like kind of being done with it. Like I like that process of drafting all year long. And then it's like, let's see how they do. Will the turtles get to the land? I think that's sort of how I feel about it. So, but I'm not opposed. It's just not my preferred. Can we declare Hyperfragile officially dead? I've never liked it. I said that all offseason too, where even if you take a McCaffrey or you take one of the top running backs, I still think you should be taking 5 or 6 just because of the fact that like you want coverage in case those guys go down, because they do go down a lot, as we've seen so far. So I don't know, like you can definitely run hot, like Pat Crane last year obviously ran hot with Hyperfragile, but I think you are threading a very tight needle there, and I think you can build different ways. So I've never loved it, but I get why people would. All right, there we go. I think I can't get that needle out of my arm. Look, you have to get the kick, man. Play Basketball Resurrection. Again, if you haven't deposited on Underdog yet, do it now. It's probably the best time you could ever deposit on there. Use the promo code SPLASH up to a $500 deposit match. Of course, go check out probably.com. We're making some infrastructure improvements as we go because we are about to roll out the paywalls. But again, the data on there is free. You can find the EV scores for every bet for free. Basically, what we do is we comb the top sportsbooks around the world to determine a true probability for every bet. And what we do is grade that out against every live sportsbook opportunity. So go check it out at probably.com. That is my baby. I've spent a year and a half building it. We're now trying to get it out there to people. So check it out. Tell a friend about it. It's the only free tool of its kind that you can actually just get in good bets easily on your phone. And then soon we will have the paywall going up where you can actually sort to find the most profitable bets very easily. That's coming out soon, but check it out. Probably.com. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod, and come back tomorrow. Tomorrow's the marathon, baby. Spags rankings. We go position by position and rank every single goddamn player based upon the EPA metrics and their usage. Who's a superior player? Who's just in a great spot? We'll find out tomorrow. Shouts to the chat as always. Even Big Lenny. Again, it's Splash Play here. It's all love, even when I berate you and say mean things. Because I'm deeply offended. But I appreciate all you guys hanging out with me. And good luck to your best ball teams. Good luck for everything here. But let's keep the process going tomorrow. See you guys then. Enjoy your days. And of course, good luck. Bye.